Straight like that, man. Y'all know the vibes. If you woke up this morning, you already won. I hope you are doing something right now that your future self will thank you for, man. I'm Earl of Pearl. That's Cecil Shorts, and this is another episode of the Ultimate 216 Show, man. Make sure y'all smash that like button, subscribe to the Ultimate 216, to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show YouTube channel. Cecil, good morning, man. How you feeling, bro?
I'm good, brother. How about you?
I feel good, man. I see you got the head shaved out. You know what I'm saying? You
You
ain't got
feel
the church
me?
on.
I ain't
You
got the
know?
church hat on today. You know what though? Got me thinking. Remember Ponderosa? So after church today, we went to Golden Corral. Remember
Yeah,
Ponderosa?
yeah, for
I miss
sure. That was a
Ponderosa,
staple.
man.
That was a
Yeah, that used
staple.
to be
You
the
know?
spot.
And them after church meals where they used to be clutch on a Sunday.
Man, they
You
used
know what
to
I
hit,
mean?
man.
I used to
Yeah.
get popped in the mouth doing Sunday service because I was fidgety. I couldn't sit still. And like, I had one of them old grandmothers. She had this, the silk scarf on her lap, the church hat on. Boy, don't
Mm.
you better, you better,
Be in church forever. Like I gotta move. Like what?
bro. Be in church at like 6 o'clock at night, man. Like
Craziness,
Jesus.
man. Craziness.
Like it'd be crazy, man. It'd be crazy. But make sure y'all drop in the chat where y'all watching from. Daniel Oyefusi from ESPN covers the Cleveland Browns is gonna join us today. And we're gonna have some fun. Hey, somebody already who cut your hair. Chill out. Don't start. Don't start.
They trying to
I
get
got
on
the
you,
locks in the
Earl.
crown. I got the locks in the crown.
The
That's all.
crown. It's the
That's
crown. It's
all.
clean. It's clean.
And somebody said Brown Derby. Brown Derby was
Brown
definitely
Derby
another
used to be
one.
a spot too, for sure.
Watching from Arizona. Shout out to everybody. We always got people watching from Arizona.
Toledo,
Toledo in the
Florida.
house. Cleveland, of course, is in the house. Louisiana in the house, man.
Florida,
Shout
what
out to
up?
everybody in Louisiana, man. How's the weather down there?
It's beautiful, man. 90s. I mean, it's hot here, so it's gonna be hot all summer, but it's beautiful.
Big facts, big facts. Well, listen, this entire show is going to be, dedicated to what transpired this last week in Cleveland Browns training camp. Everything from Jimmy Haslam comments to Martin Emerson Jr. going down with the season-ending injury. That touched my soul right there. And we're going to talk about the latest. Shedeur Sanders did not throw yesterday during 11-on-11s with some reported arm soreness. So Kevin Stefanski made the decision to hold him out. And Dillon Gabriel continues to struggle with the reps that he's receiving. So just your initial thoughts before Daniel joined us on. I want to start with the struggles of Dillon Gabriel. What's your thoughts on how he struggled as of late with the reps that he's been given?
Time will tell. And I think I'm ready to see Friday's game versus the Panthers, right? Because when you look at practice, defense always comes faster than offense. That's just how it goes. So I expected, especially the rookies, to struggle a little bit in training camp, especially after the defense figures out what the offense does. They know their plays. They know everything is similar. Don't get the same guys all the time. But at the same time, this is your guy you drafted third round. And you expected certain expectations from him and certain standards from him. And I think this week was a big week where he kind of struggled and didn't live up to that. So preseason games will tell us everything. That's what I'm big on. Lie. And you mentioned it before, Earl. When this joint practices start next week, when you go against somebody that doesn't know your plays and that's completely different in the preseason games, that's what's going to tell us how good these guys are. So I'm not reading too much into it, but I am paying attention because it's obviously something to watch.
I think for me, I think the same issues that he had in college are showing up now in the pros. And I think the one issue that he didn't have is starting to become an issue. He struggled under center. He struggled in the red zone. He did not struggle as far as having balls batted down, but at the same time, he was in shotgun a lot. It seems like every other practice, he's getting the ball batted down. I think Dillon Gabriel does his best work when he's outside of the pocket. When they have these design rollouts, that's when he's the most efficient. I think when he's under center, it's a huge problem. I think that a lot of his completions are closer to the line of scrimmage, and he can't see over the offensive line. And I think what's interesting about that is with DeJuan Jones, with him being a left-handed quarterback, when he drops back, his big ass is right in his face. You know what I mean? And so I think there's been some inconsistencies there. Everybody pick and choose whose content that they want to consume. and what Cleveland Browns reported that they trusted their information. I have my select few that I really go to, and it's been said that it's been a lot of inconsistencies as far as footwork, as far as timing, and it just seems like right now for Dillon Gabriel that the game is a little bit too fast. And it's funny because a lot was said about his processing, right? And I took that as okay, well, he just picked up the playbook fast. But just because you picked up the playbook fast doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be able to go out there and execute. And so for me, I've said this numerous times, but I think that next week is a huge week for him, for defenders, for everybody involved. You get an opportunity to have these joint practices against another team. You get to go up against somebody else finally who don't know your plays, as you alluded to. And I think those are going to be the practice sessions to where, okay, now we can start to really, see what's what for real. But uh, I think it's a bummer that Shedeur didn't throw. He was coming off that 9-9 and that padded practice, and he looked good. And so it would have been interesting to see what he could have done if he was given the opportunity to duplicate that. The way in the wing, we are not going to keep him waiting too long. We're going to do a FanDuel. We bring in Daniel. We'll have a conversation, man, about the Cleveland Browns, what's going on in training camp in week 2. But like I said, let's hear from FanDuel first. There is nothing like the energy of a live game, whether it's catching a last-minute MLB showdown or soaking in the excitement of an NBA matchup, but finding great seats at a great price that used to be a challenge until I found Game Time. I'm sorry, this is a Game Time read. So, Game Time makes scoring last-minute tickets easier than ever. Prices actually drop as the event gets closer. With all of that in pricing, you see the total cost up front, no surprises at the checkout. Here's why I love using the app. Last minute deals, you can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sporting events like I did today. I am going to the Cleveland Guardians game today. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code Locked On for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. And it's time to bring in Daniel to the program, man, as we talk about the Cleveland Browns. There he is. Let's see here. Daniel, what's up, my guy?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. That's Daniel Oyefusi of ESPN covering the Cleveland Browns, man. I want to get started with yesterday. Is there any updates? What took place? Did Shedeur Sanders go to Kevin Stefanski and tell him his arm was sore? How did we get to the point of the arm soreness and him not throwing in 11-on-11 shifts today?
Yeah, well, just to kind of give you this context surrounding the entire day. Kevin Stefanski spoke to local reporters before practice started, about 30 minutes before practice started, and Kevin doesn't always do this, but yesterday he actually gave us like some injury updates on a couple notable guys. So he says, "Hey, Greg's not going to be out there. He's day-to-day with the shoulder. We're going to hold out Miles for precautionary rest. And Kenny's going to still be limited just to individual drills." So we're like, okay, we're noting that. And sometimes we have to ask him about guys to get the updates, but he volunteered a lot of this information. So practices in the beginning of practice is normal. The quarterbacks are doing their individual drills, that they're throwing and whatnot. And then once we get into team drills, we consistently just see Joe and Dillon, and that's normal at times. Like early on, like they've done that where when they break out into team drills, it might be Joe steps in for a couple plays, and Dillon steps in for a couple plays, and then Shedeur doesn't get any reps. But when they take a break, do special teams, and then come back to another set of team drills, like Shedeur will get in. So that was normal at first, but then we just continued to see like Joe, Dillon, Joe, Dillon, and we're seeing Shedeur just standing like 20 yards behind them with the rest of the with Kenny and the other offensive coaches. And obviously got to the end of practice and he didn't get any reps. And then, post practice, they have the hungry dogs opportunity period, whatever you want to call it, where they have a lot of the young guys and the rookies get some extra competitive work in. And that's usually where Shedeur and Dillon can get a whole bunch of extra reps. But on the other field where they're doing that, we see Shedeur doing post practice sprints with the wide receivers. That's where we're like, okay, this is very, very strange. Like, it's one thing if Shedeur for some reason they just didn't give him any reps in team drills, which that was the first time that happened. But then for him not to throw post practice, we usually see him work out post practice. That was really weird. So we ask about it. The team says that he reported some arm soreness. He was held out of team drills for arm soreness. And Mary Kay Cabot of Cleveland.com, she said that that was something that Shedeur reported during the individual drills, and then they decided to keep him out as a precaution. So obviously they're off today. They're back tomorrow, and we'll see. It gives them an extra day to rest and kind of do some tests and see how he's feeling. But I thought it was just strange because it got me thinking, like, have I ever heard of a QB3 or a QB4 on a depth chart essentially getting off for arm soreness? Like, I've been in Baltimore where they might give Lamar a day off because he's sore. He's been throwing 20, 25 passes at practice. They might give Tua, when I was in Miami, they gave Tua off 1 or 2 days because he's been throwing 20, 25 passes at practice. But I'm like, I've never heard of a QB3 or a QB4 who's getting the fewest reps every day in practice reporting arm soreness and getting off. So that was really strange. But obviously, if he's back on Monday, then it's like, no harm, no foul, I guess, and you just keep on moving. But that was kind of a weird development in yesterday's practice.
That's interesting. I wonder, and this is my mind just going, I wonder, is that from him getting, because I've seen like videos and pictures of him going out pre-practice 40, 50 minutes early, trying to get warmed up, trying to get into it, or is that just after practice him throwing a lot? That's all curious here and there.
Yeah, he does. He does do a lot of throwing post practice with the guys, but like, I mean, this is just me, a layman, like, and I've never played up to that level, but I'm like, I just, it's almost hard to believe that 8 days in the camp, he's throwing that much that he's that sore and nobody else is sore, and he's getting the fewest reps out of anybody. But I mean, we'll see what happens if he's out there on Monday. I mean, he was in uniform and out there on the field, so like it wasn't like something where they didn't think he could even like dress. Usually, sometimes guys don't even dress and they're just kind of working on the side or they're inside working with the trainer. He was out there and working out during individual drills, just nothing in the team session.
So he did individual. Did he do 7-on-7?
He didn't do any 7-on-7. I don't even think they did 7-on-7. If they did, I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head, but like he didn't do any 7-on-7, no 11-on-11. It was just individual drills, passing to the wide receivers and running backs. And then once they got into teams, he didn't line up for a single snap.
All right, let me ask you this then. How is Joe looking? Him being older. I'm not expecting him to get tons of rep in preseason, but with him getting more reps because Kenny's out and then Shedeur was out yesterday, how is he looking? And then going to Dillon. How your thoughts, your honest thoughts on how Dillon has progressed these 8 days?
Well, I'll start
with 8 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with Joe, and I don't think it's a coincidence that, the last 2 practices when it's only been 3 guys and then 2 guys getting a bunch of reps, Joe has looked his best. It looks like Joe's gotten into a groove. And that was really my worry and kind of like almost like my frustration with the first week of camp. I'm looking at them try to divvy up reps between 4 guys. And I'm like, there's just no way any of these guys can get into a groove. And, to their credit, none of the quarterbacks are complaining. They're saying there's enough reps to go around. But like you see the stat tracker, like they're throwing like 6 passes of practice. Like it's hard to really say you're getting much out of that. But they're making the best out of it. But obviously, I thought Joe's looked really good. I thought he's looked the most comfortable in this offense, and that's to be expected because he played in it 2 years ago. And we're seeing that with the way he's operating the offense. Like he had a really nice sequence where he throws a skinny post or a post pattern to Cedric Tillman, and then they're doing more 11-on-11, and it's 3rd down, and he goes hard count and he gets the defense to jump off sides. So it's like you're seeing like that veteran aspect really kicking in with the way that he's been taking control of this offense the past couple practices, and as he's getting more. With Dillon, I mean, you've seen the stat tracker, you've seen the clips, and obviously like I don't want to make too much. I try not to make too much of like highlights or lowlights because like one great pass doesn't make a great practice. An interception in a practice doesn't mean you had a terrible practice or a bad practice. But I think he struggled with the speed, and I think that was something that stood out to me in the spring, where he was getting a little bit of first-team reps, but he was also working with the backups as well. And it just seemed like it was a little too fast for him in the spring when he was working against the first-team defense, and I've seen that a lot these past couple practices where it's like, his calling card was his accuracy, and it's like some of these passes aren't even, on target.
Close.
Like,
not even close.
Exactly. So, I wrote a story entering training camp where I broke down where everybody stood in this quarterback competition, however you want to call it. And I said that regardless of like what anybody thought about the pre-draft, whatever the pre-draft notion of or thought of Dillon Gabriel was, they saw something in him that led them to take him with the top 100 pick. And the fact that he was getting first team reps in the spring, despite Kevin Stefanski saying don't read into it, that was telling that the Browns saw potentially a pathway for him to play early. So I know everyone's saying, like, why isn't Shedeur getting any reps with the first team offense? I mean, the fact of the matter, he was the fourth quarterback added in this quarterback room. They brought in Kenny Pickett. They sought him out as a trade target the first week of free agency. They brought in Joe Flacco a week or 2 weeks before the draft. They drafted Dillon Gabriel in the third round, and they drafted Shedeur Sanders in the fifth round. Just naturally, you're going to start fourth on the depth chart, and you got to work your way up. I think he's had good moments. I thought he's looked good. But again, like when they pick somebody in the third round, they're going to give them an opportunity to make their mistakes, to learn, and to show that they can that they can play. And I think that the first 2 weeks we started to see by the nature of attrition with injury and just performance, we start to see a little bit of a distance where I think Joe is clearly the most comfortable in this offense. We got to see what happens with Kenny when he comes back. And then the rookies are kind of in their own separate kind of slot, I think. We've all talked about this as a four-way quarterback competition. And I've kind of built it as that. I've written about it like that because I think that the Browns were open to one of the rookies really like blowing them away and then maybe, usurping the vets. But I really think the first 2 weeks, even with Kenny's injury, we've seen that this is more like they're really evaluating the vets, it feels like, for the starting job. And then they're trying to see if Dillon's maybe ready to play early in the season or halfway through the season if things kind of go by the wayside.
So a couple of things to what you said. I'll just share my thoughts on that. I think you're accurate in what you just said. I don't think this was ever a quarterback competition. And I want
to add real quick. Kevin never said, because I know a lot of people have been saying this on social media, Kevin never said Shedeur was going to get first team reps with the starters. He never said that Shedeur was going to get the same number of reps as anybody. He never said anything to that extent. He said the reps might not be equal, but they're going to be fair to what we believe is fair to the player and fair to the team. Mm-hmm. So like when you see Flacco and Pickett getting the majority of the first team reps in the first week of camp, that makes sense because they're the vets. They've been in the building a little bit longer. They know the playbook a little bit better. And then they have a player who they drafted in the third round. And if you draft anybody in the third round, you probably think that they can contribute fairly early as a rookie. You're going to prioritize them. Like there is a priority and there is a hierarchy right now that they're going by. Whether that changes, we'll see. But there is a priority and there is a hierarchy by which they want to evaluate these guys right now.
So to that, I think that the whole quarterback competition, I think it was always about Joe and Kenny when it came to, who's going to start this season. And I think the evaluation ultimately, in my opinion, for the rookies is who's going to be the QB2 and get that first opportunity to, show what they can do when those times come. But when I look at Dillon Gabriel, and I said this on this show a couple of weeks ago, I go back to the pre-draft process. And I think about my job as a producer and how I made all these different stat graphics for all these different quarterbacks that was a possible option for the Cleveland Browns. And not once did anybody that was above me said, you know what, I need stats and montages on Dillon Gabriel. And then I go read everything and I see this dude is being ranked 9th or 10th by quote unquote draft experts. I mentioned that I feel like the Browns are operating like they found a needle in a haystack. I don't think personally he's a better player than Shedeur Sanders. And so what I said this yesterday on the radio, because he's a third round pick, because he's Kevin's guy, like you said, he's going to get the opportunities first to show what he can and cannot do. And I think that the more he's put out there in these situations, he's going to show who he's not. And then the Browns can move on and, see what happens from there. That's just how I see the situation. I can understand him getting the reps that he's getting, but for me, it's like, okay, I'm cool with it because I don't think Dillon is that guy. So let him just continue to show that he's not. That's how I see it. The game is too fast.
This is, I hate talking like this because we're making it seem like, and this is not knocking anybody, they're not going to be good. So if you have to go from Kenny Pickett and then who's going to play the second time the next opportunity comes, is it going to be Shedeur or Dillon? When you switch quarterbacks, that means you're not doing well. that means you're struggling, right? And I don't think the expectations are extremely high for the Cleveland Browns, but I agree with both of you when you say Dillon's gonna get every chance to prove, like when you're a draft pick in the first 3 rounds, you're gonna get every chance to prove you're not the guy. You're gonna get every opportunity to prove you cannot play football. So even when he does struggle the first couple games or whatever the case may be, whenever Dillon plays, he's still gonna get the next opportunity because they've spent that particular money and asset on him. So he's gonna get more opportunities than Shedeur naturally because that's how the pecking order goes, right? So it's just interesting that we talk about that, and it's frustrating from a fan standpoint, from a media coverage. It's like, what are you really doing? Why did you even draft Shedeur? If this is the case, you got Joe, you traded for Kenny, and then you draft Dillon. Why the heck would you draft Shedeur? So let me ask you this, Daniel. When the owner came out, Haslam, and said what he said about Shedeur and that process, the draft Friday night, Saturday, they talked to the right people. I have my opinion. I want to hear Earl's opinion. What's your opinion on how did you take what he said?
It was funny to see the reaction to it because I actually asked that question that solicited that response, and because
Yeah, shout out to you.
no,
that was you.
That was crazy. Daniel asked the question, and I'm gonna let you, but I'm pretty sure you've seen the national headlines. I thought it was taken out of context from Cook.
yeah, I mean, I wanted to give Jimmy a chance to like explain his perspective and himself because again, that was like the national narrative that it was an owner's pick, and we all saw like the video of Kevin and AB, like in the draft room in the war room, and like they looked less than enthused, which I think that was a little taken out of context as well. And I think that Jimmy's comments were too. When he said, "When I'm driving back home Friday night, if you told me we're going to take Shedeur, I would have said that's not happening." A lot of people took it to say like he didn't want to draft him. And that's why he said that was AB's pick. Like, no, I think first off, him saying that was AB's pick was like, I think locally that's what people wanted to hear. Like, they don't want to hear that Jimmy is like meddling and telling people who to pick and whatnot. And when he said that's not happening, I think that was for multiple reasons. I think that first off, that's Friday night they had taken Dillon third round, and not only was it a shock that they took Dillon, it was a shock that they took Dillon over Shedeur. So I don't think anybody expected them to take Shedeur after that. I didn't. And then you just look in the matter of like, if you were to tell the Browns that they were going to be able to get Shedeur in the 5th round, like I don't think anybody would anticipate he would have dropped that far. So I think that like Jimmy is probably like a victim of like being like too honest in that case. But I don't think it meant like they didn't want him there, or like I'm hearing stuff about like they're trying to sabotage him. Like I don't believe it's that. I think that AB even said like we didn't go into the draft expecting to take 2 quarterbacks. But they kind of saw where they were at. I mean, it's a 5th round pick. It's a quarterback that they thought was way more talented than a 5th round pick. And it's almost like a lottery ticket. It's almost like, hey, if this pans out, we got something special. But if not, it's a 5th round pick. So I think that it's definitely taken out of context a bit. But just like just with the nature of how polarizing Shedeur is right now, like it's just kind of par for the course.
So to that point, because we both know, all three of us know that Shedeur Sanders has a very, very strong personal fan base. And Daniel, you get tagged in a lot of stuff. I'm pretty sure you know that his fan base, you feel like he's not being shot, he's being sabotaged, or that the Browns just didn't really want him. When you hear these theories, and what's your opinion to that? Like, what would you say to his fan base when you hear stuff like that?
I would say that the nature by which, like, I would say, I don't think, first off, I don't think like there's any sabotage taking place. I don't think that there's like any deeper level conspiracy. I think obviously like there was his pre-draft process, and him landing in Cleveland how he did it. It's a lot of nuance to it. There is a lot of nuance to it, and I think that some stuff is a lot of stuff that like people can't even report because it's stuff has been disclosed kind of off the record just to give kind of context. So like media understands, but they can't say everything. But I would say there's a lot of nuance to his pre-draft process, how he landed in Cleveland. And I think that what we're seeing in Cleveland right now is like not anything. It's not what people are making it out to be. I keep on saying like take away whatever pre-draft notion you had about him, because I think that the public perception of him didn't necessarily align directly with what the NFL thought. And I don't think that anybody thought that he was a fifth round quarterback. But I don't think he was the surefire, first round pick that a lot of people thought, that I honestly thought that he was. And now we're seeing just kind of like the natural thing that takes place when you're a fifth round pick and you got to work your way up the depth chart. So I would say give it time. If there's a process in place. I would almost just say, like, when you take somebody in the fifth round, they're almost looking at them as like a developmental prospect. They're not going to get thrown out there before the team thinks they're ready or before they earn it. So I would say just give it time. Like, we have 2 joint practices coming up. We got 3 preseason games. And we have a whole season that's going to play out. And if you know anything about the Browns, you're probably going to play 3 or 4 quarterbacks during that season. So I would say just to give it time and let it all play out.
Let me ask you this. With the preseason game coming on Friday, I believe, joint practices all week in Carolina, what is your suspicion, or who will play quarterback? How many reps, how many quarters, who's going to start Friday night?
I mean, if I had to guess, I would say Kevin and his staff would just let the rookies like rock out, especially like what we've been seeing nowadays with like joint practices and the NFL going to 3 preseason games. It's like the joint practices is like the preseason games for the vets, where they're going to get a ton of reps, and then the young guys get to really like go for the first 2 games, and then the final game is like really for the dress rehearsal. So if my guess is that we're going to see a lot of Joe in the joint practices. If Kenny is ready to go, they'll give Kenny a lot of reps, and then they'll kind of save those first 2 preseason games, or the first preseason game for the rookies, and that's when we'll really get to see Dillon and Shedeur. That's really what I'm waiting for at this point. Like, I've seen these guys practice a lot. We're debating over like stat trackers and what would be a sack, what would be a touchdown. Like, at this point, I just want to see them in like the actual games and like see if like the stuff that they're learning in practice they're really going to take over, carry over into the preseason games.
Let me ask you this, because we spend a lot of time, focusing on the quarterbacks, but Mason Graham and Carson Schlesinger, talk about just what you've seen from those 2 young men as they went throughout this entire process. To me, I think Schlesinger, of all the rookies in this class, is going to be the guy that's going to have the most immediate impact. How do you see those 2 guys?
Yeah, I mean, when we first entered training camp, I thought it was probably going to be more Mason Graham and then like Harold Fan and maybe Junkins, who's obviously dealing with this situation right now. Schlesinger, I thought that there was gonna be like a pathway for him to playing a role, but you anticipated that Jordan Hicks was gonna be around before his surprise retirement and all that stuff. But I mean, I think that it's a real testament to what they think about Schlesinger that the first day of camp, we're seeing him in the middle of the defense, calling the defensive plays, and that says a lot about what they view about his potential as a rookie to not only like start, but to be the defensive communicator. So he's been all over the field in the right place. We saw, the hit that he put on Dillon Sampson on like the second day of padded practice. Like, I love that because, I think that they needed a increase in intensity from last year at the Greenbrier. So to have like a rookie in the middle of the defense, like delivering the first big hit of camp, like that was something that like I got hype on the sideline seeing that. I got just like, you know what I'm saying? So I think that he's gonna be a great fit for this defense, like just as a athletic, physical guy. Same thing with Mason Graham is a guy who maybe like is probably gonna have maybe like the leash taken off of him in Cleveland, where he's in a different scheme where they're just gonna tell him to attack as opposed to maybe being like a guy that takes up double teams. So I think that if the Browns are going to have any success this season, it's going to be on the backs of this defense. So it's good to see like some young guys, with some turnover with JOK and obviously Martin being out and whatnot. It's good to see like some of these young guys are flashing a lot because I think that they're going to need it.
So let me ask you this. We're talking about the defense. Emerson's out for the season. I think it's an Achilles, you guys reported. Should the Browns go out and get Asante Samuel Jr.? Should they go out and get another young guy that can come in and help this defense right away? Or do the Browns have enough in the stable right now?
Yeah, I mean, the depth is definitely being tested right now, especially with Greg being out and day-to-day. Like, we're seeing a lot of young guys get thrown out there. Like, I think, Yesterday it was shoot, what was this? Cam Mitchell on the outside opposite Denzel Ward. It was Miles Harden in the slot, and then they're like rotating a bunch of guys. So the depth is a little bit dicey right now. I think that Greg has looked really good so far, and I think that he probably say he's probably a little more comfortable on the outside. That's where he was before. MJ came in and he was moved to the slot. But then you're counting on whether it's Cam Mitchell or Miles Harden to really step up. I would say like this time of the year, like the front office and the coach said, like they're gonna give guys the opportunity to like we said about like Dillon, they're gonna give themselves some time and some leeway to show if these young guys can grow into these roles and play. And if like, hey, I mean, we're about to have joint practices, we're about to have these preseason games. Like if after a week or two, some of these young guys, it's not really translating to these real competitive atmospheres. Like maybe you go out and you get a guy, but I think that they're probably going to give it time. Especially because again, like they drafted a lot of these guys. They drafted Miles Harden last year. They drafted Cam Mitchell 2 years ago. Like they're going to give them time to work through. And honestly, I would say I've been impressed with some of these guys. Like I think that the past couple of days, like I've seen Miles Harden step up with some plays. I've seen Cam Mitchell step up with some plays. Now they've got some other kind of less heralded guys who are going up. Like they're rotating these guys in with the first team defense, and they're getting a lot of reps. So I would say I wouldn't expect like a move immediately. Maybe like a depth piece. We've seen that. But I think it's probably closer to roster cut down, or maybe after roster cut down, you're looking for at the waiver wire maybe a vet who can step in with some competitive snaps if need be.
All right, Daniel, I'll get you out of here on this one, man. You first of all, thank you for your time. Kept you a little bit longer than what I expected.
All good.
Just bro, like when you assess non-practices, you've been there for every single one of them. Just take us through it. How do you think training camp has been so far overall for the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to it before. Like, I think last year obviously was my first year covering the Browns, and I was almost like shocked by how slow the ramp up period was. Like this is my 7th training camp practice that I've covered. Last year was my 6th, and like in the 5 years prior, I had never seen a training camp where like it just felt like it was just like the most elongated ramp up. We're like 2 weeks in, we're at the wing back for 10 days. And like, I don't think that I saw like real like physical practices being held. And again, I think that part of that was just the nature of where the team was at. Like you had Deshaun coming off of his shoulder surgery. You had a lot of guys on the offensive line and across the team who were coming back from injuries. And I think that like Kevin and his staff, I think they just wanted to get to week 1 as healthy as possible. But a lot was made up about the physicality and the toughness of the team, and players talked about how like they were a little more aggressive and there was a little more intensity in the spring. I think we've seen that in the summer where like people are saying this is the first time they've ever seen Kevin go live. Like guys are like really getting tackled to the ground, and they're not like keep him up. It's like nah, like we're going live. Like in special teams, Bubba Ventrone, the special teams coordinators, like we're going live. Touch everybody but the returners. Like we're being physical. I think it's gonna help them when we get to week 1. It's like that first 6-game schedule is the toughest schedule in the toughest 6-game start in the NFL. Like they're gonna have to bring it. And they're gonna have to win off their physicality. They're gonna have to win off their defense. So I like the way that they've been going about it, and I think it's gonna help them in the long run.
Hey, real quick, give me one name in the receiver room that stood out these 9 days. Outside of Judy, give me one name that's been standing out and gonna make plays.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a known name and an unknown name. I really think that Deontay Johnson has looked really good. I really think I put it on Twitter a couple of days ago. I think he's the most talented receiver in the room, not named Jerry Judy. And if everything goes right, like he should be like starting in the slot, with Judy and Cedric Tillman. An unknown guy. It took me a minute to get his name right, but he's been making so many plays. Like I have no choice but to get his name right now. But Gage Larvidan, he's been looking really good. I think he's an undrafted guy out of South Carolina. He had a touchdown catch on a really nice fade ball. It was like a slot fade from Joe in red zone drills. He's catching everying. They're targeting him.
He was pumped about that too.
He was. He put it on Twitter. He was like, "Man, I caught a touchdown pass from Joe Flacco. Like he's catching my eye." And I said it like there's roster spots to be had. There's 1, 2, maybe 3 roster spots to be had at the wide receiver position. So he's been looking good. I'm excited to see what he does in joint practices and preseason games.
Hey, bro, man, we appreciate you. We appreciate your work, man. You got boots on the ground. You work your ass off. Thanks for taking some time on your off day to join us.
I appreciate it. Most definitely. Thanks for having me.
All right, bro. I'll talk to you in a minute.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's get back to it. All right, there it is, man. So we're gonna wrap up, man. I know we got some super chats. We're gonna go through that. Thank y'all for watching this show, man. Make sure y'all smash that like button and just go through what some of you had to say. J.A. Tony G asked Shedeur about his arm after practice, and Shedeur said it was good. Interview was out there. I had to go check that out.
Me too.
Beautifully Blessed says, just be honest and say they wanted those reps with DG. 12 is always ready, even with a fractured back. Chantel says, Earl, if they're not looking to win, how do they explain this to the locker room? Miles, Denzel, Joel, they're going to what? The best quarterback out there, not throwing picks. They want a QB who could win. Morning Coffee says, Daniel Shedeur is the developmental quarterback. What is Gabriel? Because he looks awful. At this point, I believe Press had meeting with Browns to tell us BS. And then we have this one that says Stefanski was deceitful. I'm sorry. Barry took one for the team. Stefanski said Dillon's play is just bad days. It's obvious why they're last. Shedeur needs out. And I think that was the last of the super chats. What did you think from Daniel real quick before we get out?
Loved him. Very insightful. I'm curious about preseason, man. Like, if you go into preseason and, like you said, the rookies are getting majority of the reps and one outshines the other, to me, you should, like say Shedeur outshines DG. All right, he should jump him. He should be number 3. Let's keep it moving, keep the competition rolling. If it's consistent in week 2, because you only got 3 games.
Yeah.
And in one of the games, if not 2 of the games, you need your starters to get reps with the starters, whoever that may be. So time is ticking, man. Time is ticking. I love what he had to say, though. Love what I heard about Carson. It's some exciting things happening with the Browns. Just this quarterback thing is going to be something to watch. I can't wait till hear the reports this week. Can't wait to watch the game on Friday. But it's going to get real interesting really, really soon.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you just said, man. This week is a big evaluation week where you have joint practices. You got the preseason game. I don't think either veteran quarterback will play in the preseason game. So we'll see a lot of Dillon Gabriel. We'll see a lot of Shedeur Sanders and live game action. And, Dillon has struggled. If Shedeur has a solid week coming off his 9 for 9 in that padded practice, if he has a solid week and then he outperforms in that game, there's no way going into the next week he should still be behind Dillon Gabriel on the depth chart, man. This has been another episode of the Ultimate 216 Show, man. Remember, be great and spread love. Being great come with a price. Spreading love is priceless. We'll see y'all next week. Peace.